אמנם אחר שנעשה עולם התיקון בחינס פרצוף. It says בחינת פרצוף or בבחינת פרצוף.
I haven't found it. I have no idea. So far, I don't know.
אחר שנעשה עולם התיקון בבחינת פרצוף. After it becomes in a level of a partzuf, which means before in Olam HaTohu is b'bchinas nekudus. It's not a partzuf, but once it becomes in the level of a partzuf, shenistaken v'nimshach ha'oir b'levushim v'kelim the Olam HaTikun, that it gets corrected. That's the Olam HaTikun. And the light comes down in a way in the levushim of Koli and the kelim of the world of Tikkun. Azai nimshach shelo yispashet ha'oir l'sitra achra u'la'ovdei kechavim. So then it extends in a way that it should not go, should not expand the light to the sitra achra of the kechavim. In the Olam HaTohu, before you have the garment, before you have the partzuf, before you have the garment of tikkun, the kelim, over there it's mispashit also to the klippas. But after there is Olam HaTikun, so over there, the Olam HaTikun and those garments, they fix that this light should only go to Kedusha, not to expand to the other side, to the Sitra Achra and to the Chom. Like the Pasuk says, Melech ein be'edem. There is no king in Edom, there is no Hispashtus, there is no Malchus, there is no Hamshocha into Edom. So this was Lechatchila, when there was the Olam HaTohu, and then we have Olam HaTikun. But still, even after Golus Mitzrayim, even now, we have a similar situation. After the Tohu and Tikkun, we still have similar to the level of Tohu when we are in Golus, when we were in the Golus Mitzrayim. Because the whole pasuk that we're discussing about over here, the difference between the status of the Yidden, that they are considered like Yonti בחגוי הסלע, as opposed to the time when we say kumiloch yarayosi yafosi, that is within the world of tikkun after the creation of Atzilus, and still there is a example like imkol ze yesh dugma sanal gam achar olam hatikun. There is similar to the above, what olam that took place in olam hatohu, even after we have tikkun. And v'hainu begolus Mitzrayim u'babel ve'edom, while we're in golus, in Mitzrayim and in Babel and in Edom during these golusin. So in those golusin we have the example from the olam hatohu. V'hainu. And why is that? Because in Golus, the whole idea is in Tikkun your mamshich, in Bechinas Partzuf, in the level of Levushim. But when it comes in the Golus, Kuchabrichu goes up higher and higher, sort of. There is no hamshocha into the olam hatikun. That's called the level of Shina. That's called the level of Shina. Sibas aliyah zu, and because of this elevation, ein ha'oires meluboshim belevushim v'kelim v'chenes hatikun. Because there is this solik leilo, there is an elevation, or the reason, the cause of this elevation, eina oiris miluboshim milavushim vekelim v'chinas hatikon. The lights are not dressed up in the garments and the vessels of tikkun. Like it says in the Pri Etz Chaim, Shebimitzrayim, when the Yidden were in Mitzrayim, Hoya ibur zo bebeten emachulo. There was the pregnancy of zo in the stomach of the mother. Instead of zo being born and having a hamshocha from the level of bina, chokhmah bina in zo, it goes back, reverts to being in a pregnancy in the Beten of Ema. The lights and the moichin of the Zeir Ampin of the Midos were removed. They left them Kelim Shalem from the Kelim of the Midos of Atzilus, and they go up in the level of the upper Ema, the level of Bina. And further, even higher, and they go up even to a higher place, even higher than Bina. Asher Shom Nemar, in that higher place, it's written about the higher place. Im Tzodakta Matitan Loy. That is a place where if you are righteous, what do you give Hashem? Basically, it's a place where is higher than the action of people matter over there. It's in a place where even if you do good things, you don't give him anything. And because of that, that's where it went up. Because of that, you can have a hamshocha from there, dress up also in the klippas. And because of this, nimshach liyos malchus de atzilus, and because of that, because of the oiros leaving the kelim of Zoh and going up above to the higher level of Im Tzadakta Matitan Loi, that's why you can extend to be that the malchus that Atzilus dresses up, mislabeshes, the klippas, the levushim, zorim the kededus, in this strange garment of kededus, albis shomayim kededus, like he said before, to dress up in these black garments. So what is the connection? Because one depends on the other. Yehoah b'ho talia. One hinges on the other. Shemach mas shezeir ampin hu b'bchina shina v'siluk mehakelim v'alevushim leilu leila. Because the zeir ampin, the level of the midos, the level of the midos of Atzilus, is in a level of asleep, meaning that it's left. Siluk mehakelim v'alevushim, the oir and the chayis has left the vessels and the garments of Zeir Ampin. It goes up le'ela, high. Nimshach. So what comes down then? Al b'shamayim kededis. That the Shamayim dresses up with black, with the clouds, with darkness. So this is the Olam Hatoyu, even after there's Olam Hatikun, when the lights of Olam Hatoyu go up higher and higher. And then just like in the Olam of Toyu, we have the Shviras HaKelim. Well, how did that take place? That through the fact that the supreme lights were removed and they went up higher, so that's why the Kelim fell down below. So likewise, Malchus, when Zoh loses its Oirvechayis, so Malchus goes down into the black, into the Al B'Shamayim Kededis. V'ayim HaShekosuv Me'inyan Zeh B'Dibur HaMaschil, Vayra Lavram Chulu, Ubdivra Maschil Shir Hashimim so Yonti Cholmim, Ubdivra Maschil Ayni Yishenochum. So that's the Golus Mitzrayim. That's what happens. So how do we fix this? So the fixing is we have to bring back the light into the Kalim. In Zoh, we have to bring it back into them to vitalize them. And therefore, Kidei Lesakin Lahamshich B'chinas Levush Malchus. In order to fix and to bring down that garment of Malchus, Tzorich Liyes Mitchilo Hamshochas Hamoichim Lezoh. So first, we need to bring down the moichin to the level of Zoh. Sheyumshach b'bchinas desolik le'elo lislabesh, so that we should bring down from that level that what left le'elo went higher and higher. So we have to get that level lislabesh b'kelim ulevushim the tikkun, to dress up again in the vessels and in the garments of tikkun, the partsuf Zod Atzilus, in the partsuf, in the face of Zod Atzilus, to bring down back the hamshocha, so that in the midos of Atzilus, in Zod Atzilus, should once again bring that light that left it, to bring it down. And then automatically, after, if you bring down that light, Al yidei ze yumshach achar kach al yidei ma'isa hamitzvos. So then, through this, you bring down, through the act of mitzvahs, hamshocha belevush malchus da'atzilus. You bring it down in the garment of malchus da'atzilus. Not a garment which is black, which gave the sitra achra, but to bring down the level of Yafosi, to bring down the level of a beautiful garment of Torah mitzvahs. Bringing down in the garment of Malchus Da'atzilus. It should not be the level of dressing the Shemayim with black, which came because of the siluk, because of the removal of that oil. So look at that Mamer that explains Yisrael Oisim Tshuva, they're redeemed. Basically, when the Yidden are mamshich into Zoh, they become redeemed because they're no longer in Mitzrayim. There is no longer the hashpah to the sitra achra. Then it's all in kedusha. Then you have the beautiful garments versus the albi shemayim kedeiros. V'nei yadua be'etz chayim. It's known in the Eitz Chaim shekedei lihiyois hamshochas hamoichin lezoh, that in order for it to bring down the moichin to Zoh, which is what we're doing, is we're bringing down to the level of Zoh, u'alidei yichud avo, that comes through the union of Ava'im, Chochma Ubina, shemaylidim hamoichin lezoh v'nukva, they give birth, or the intellect for Zoh v'nukva, they're mamshich the moichin to Zoh v'nukva. In order for Avo to be mamshich, the level of moichin to Zoh v'nukva, is Avo, Aveim, Chochma Bina, tzrichim lekabel hakoyach milmayla yosef. They need to get their power for the yichud to give birth. They need to get it from a higher place, ma'oir hakeser, the light of keser. He is the one that connects the Oir HaMaitzel B'nei Etzolim B'ayim Ashkosu B'Pri Eitz Chaim in Shara Krishma Perik Yud Aleph. V'lochein Yichud Avo, because we're talking about that you need to bring it from the higher level, from the level of Keser. That can be accomplished only through Mesiras Nefesh. That brings the Yichud Avo. Avo comes through, Yichud Avo comes through Mesiras Nefesh. As opposed to the Yichud Zun, the Yichud of Zov and Ukva, who are they Torah Mitzvahs? That is Torah Mitzvahs. That's not Mesiras Nefesh. Why? Because by Yichud Avo, you bring from Keser, from Bligvul. You have to have your own Bligvul. Ki Yichud Avo, hu hamshochas eir chodosh mim koiro de koilo. The Yichud of Avaim is bringing down a new light from the source of everything. From the Maitzil, blessed be he who there is no comparison to. So over there, you're bringing down a level of something which is not comparable at all to bring down into the world. So how do you get that hamshocha? That only can come down through Mesiras Nefesh, totally devotion and self, giving up of yourself. Mesiras Nefesh oila l'maylo maylo mamish, because Mesiras Nefesh goes up higher, actually, and the B'chinas Atzmos HaMaitzil goes up into the Maitzil himself. Is a biur al-posik v'nigdashti b'soich b'nei Yisrael. And we see a very interesting thing Alter Rebbe brings down over here now. How do you see that the level of Mesiras Nefesh brings you to a much higher level than the level of Torah? Because we see v'lochein Omar HaMagid LaHabeis Yosef. The Magid, that is the one who used to teach the Beis Yosef. He used to have a vision and a teacher on a spiritual level who used to tell him. It's called the Magid. There's a whole sefer about the teachings of the Magid to the Beis Yosef. He told the Beis Yosef, sheyizakehu lemesiras nefesh al kiddush Hashem, that will give him the zechus, the privilege, to have Mesiras Nefesh, to sanctify Hashem's name. That's Mesiras Nefesh. He said he's going to have a privilege to have Mesiras Nefesh. What does it come out if that's a privilege? That means that that's going to be a greater privilege than what the Beis Yosef was doing all of his life. Beis Yosef was sitting and learning Torah and teaching Torah, writing the Shulchan Aruch, etc., and all the different Torah, the Kesef Mishnah, the Beis Yosef, and that's in the Nigla, the Torah, and in Nister, he was writing Torah. The Magid tells him that you're going to have a privilege, that you're going to be able to die and Kiddush Hashem. The mashma, so it turns out she is as chuz godel, that this chuz will be greater than all that he can prolong his day and learn Torah and do mitzvahs. It's going to be a bigger chuz for him that he's going to go Mesiras Nefesh. How come? Because Mesiras Nefesh reaches to the level of Ein Sof, to the Maitzil. A lot more. That creates the Yichud Avo, which is much greater than the Yichud of Zom. That's because of the above reason. This is also the idea of Mesiras Nefesh. When you say Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem Echad, so you say Echad in Kriya Shema, that is the idea we have Mesiras Nefesh. Why? Because the first step Shema Yisrael is Yichud Avo, and learning Torah next is Yichud Zoh. Kekriya Shema hu nikra Yichud Avo. That is reading of the Shema. That's called the Yichud of Aveim. Chochma Bina Dahainu. Hamshach Asher Chodosh Mein Sof Baruch Hu. That is bringing down the new life of the Ein Sof. Zoh Daiko Al Yidei Mesiras Nefesh. That comes specifically through self-sacrifice. Through Mesiras Nefesh, you can bring down that level of Avo. So that's the higher level. When you have to bring down the higher level of the Ein Sof, you need Mesiras Nefesh. Okay, and how you do like we know the idea that is known about the advantage, the greatness of Teshuvah, which is done with more force, with more force. You can buy your whole world in one time. It takes a long time to earn Olam Haba when you work regularly, but when you do Teshuvah, because it comes b'chele yatir, you buy your world, you earn your world to come in one time. So that's the beginning. That's what the Avo, that's the Yichud Avo, that's in Krishma, that's Echod. So, Inyan Pasuk Rishon, the Kriya Shema, this is the idea of the first Pasuk of Shema. Shu Yichud Avo, that is the Yichud of Avo. So then after this it says, then you say, these are the words that I command you. Talking about the level of mitzvahs and the Torah. Then later on to bring down from Ava Ein Zov and Nukva, who halidei Torah mitzvahs. That comes through Torah mitzvahs. To be mamshech the Yichud Avo, we need Mesiras Nefesh from Keser. But to be mamshech from Avo in Zov and Nukva, that takes place through Torah mitzvahs. This is what we call you're studying in Torah for the sake of Torah, which means to bring down l'shem atzma, bring down for the sake of Torah itself. Liyes oir haTorah nimshach bezo mipnimis chochma ilo, to bring down the light of Torah into the Zeir Ampin, into the Midas, from the inner Chochmah, Shalemailo Mibchinas Nevis, which is higher than Nevis. That's what we had discussed in the previous Mamer, that you have the level of Moichin of Midas, which is only the Chitzonis HaMoichin, but you want, which is called the Nevis Chochmah, but you, through the Oir HaTorah, you bring the Pnimius of Chochmah law, which is Shalemailo Mibchinas Nevis, which is higher than the level of Chayim. How do we get to this? That starts off, we start with the first pasuk of Hashem Echad, which we have the level of Mesiras Nefesh. That way, you extend the level of the union of Avo Chochma Bina, bringing down a new light, Mamshich from Keser. But then it comes down through Torah mitzvahs into Zoh. And also from this comes that we have these beautiful garments, and no longer the bad garments. That through the mitzvah we have the level of Yafosi, or the other pasuk, you dressed up in splendor and beauty. It should not be the level of Albi Shemayim Mikdedes K'moy Ba'olam HaToyu as it is in the world of Toyu. V'ayim Hashekosu b'moker machar b'pirush Maimer Hazoyer Parshas Bolok Tavkuf Tzadik Aleph Amud Aleph Tavkuf Tzadik Aleph Amud Aleph Aposik Shchoyre Chulu K'dei Chulu Nofik Doido Chulo is Banios v'is Avidos b'tiknuha. Guess that afterwards it gets built up, and that means that the Zoh gets fixed up after the Hamshocha that comes to the level of Avoh. It's explained there in the Mamer Hazor. So this is also the pshat in this pasuk that we're talking about. We said, "Kumiloch shebetchila tzorich liyos kumiloch." First, there has to be the level of kumiloch, the b'chinas shoyrish haneshama. That is to the level of the root of the neshama. V'hu al yidei lemesiras nefesh be'echad. That is through first the mesiras nefesh be'echad. Shem izeh na'animshech yichud avo. That brings the union of Chokmo Bina. Lochein nikra kumi loch. Kumi lechof is lebchinas chof, as we've done before, to the level of keser, because you're going up to bring down from keser to bring the yod avo. Ayin the pri it's Chaim Shar Nefilas Apayim Soy Perikei. And then after you have Kumiloch, then you can have Rayosi. You can have level of Rayosi, which is Lahamshich Hamoichim Bezoh. Bring down the Moichin and Zoh. And then the Yafosi B'Malchus, and then making the Yafosi in Malchus. The Torah brings down in Zoh, and the mitzvahs in Malchus. Levush of Malchus. Yafosi. Yichud Zov and Nukva, that's the Yichud of Zov and Nukva of Zeir Ampin and Malchus. The Hine calls on Nemar as man. All this he says about the time of Yitzis Mitzrayim. Shalzeh Nemar, about that it says, Hine has Stov Ovar Chulu. Stov is the winter, the time of the rain and the clouds, the blackness, the darkness. Al b'shamayim kedeiros. The weather is gone, which means Hainu. What means sha'oz nizgala b'chinas olam hatikun. Now the world of Tikkun is revealed. It's no longer al b'shamayim kedeiros. Ba'ovar hastov v'cholof hageshem. So this stov has passed, and the rain has left, which means the hainu ha'hester the al b'shamayim kedeiros. That is the block that we say put up the shamayim with the black. That comes from the world of chaos and exile of Mitzrayim. Okay. The Inyan Hakefel Loshen Stov Geshem, he says, what's the duplicate language over here? It says Ovar Stov of a Gesh Stov Cholof Hageshem, Ayin Barabis B'Shir Hashimim, Ayin B'Zoyra Rekiya Reish Pashas Vayechi. So then, when it's past, we say Kumi Locho Rayosi. Stand up. That's the time. Once it's past, at that time. Once it's past, then we say Kumi Locho Rayosi. Abo Bizman Hagolus, but in the time of exile, Nemar. Then my pigeon is like the pasuk says before that. It's in the crack of the stone, cannot expand, cannot put up his wings. It's in the hidden levels. It cannot be in the level of kumiloch getting up. So what is the eitzah? What's the advice in the time of Golus? Show me your image, the mirror. He should remember and he should place to the heart Shahester einei elo b'chinas mara. That is just an image. The Hester is not real, but it's only a mara. Sheyorad miigra romo, that he has descended from a high level. And you cry out to Hashem in your discomfort to come to the level of Kumila. Gimel. To understand this idea, Hine Yesh Eser Sefiros Milmailo Lemato de Eiri Yoshor, the Eser Sefiros de Erchoizer Milmato Lemailo. We have the 10 Sefiros Hamshocha, that comes the order from Chochma Bina Das going down. That's the straight line. But we also have the 10 Sefiros, the Erchoizer, they're going back from below to higher, the Erchoizer, a returning light, Milmato Lemailo, from below to above. Moshe Kosu Beitz Chaim Shar Manu Mad Perik Yudalet, Ubepardes Shar Mimato Lemailo. Behainu, how do you get the returning light? Ayidei HaParsha Mavsekes B'siyum HaAtzilus, through the curtain that interrupts in the end of Atzilus, through that Atzilus. Boikin ha'oireis ve'oilim b'bchinas oir choizer. The lights break through and they go back up in a returning light. V'nase keser chochma bina lemato. U'kamoishe kosuv b'zeh b'igeres ha'kodesh b'divra maschil v'chayoy. You become the level of Keser Chochma Bina. In the lower level, they become the level of Keser Chochma Bina. He's going to explain. Once he explain this by the person below, the idea of the Ur Choizer, of the returning light. Well, Derech Mashekosu, similar what it says in the pasuk, "V'ahavta Hashem chulu b'chol me'idecha." You should love Hashem, but it says b'chol me'idecha, with all of your being, everything. Mo'idu b'li gvul. Mo'id means unlimited, without any boundaries. V'hainu b'chinas ein sof. That is the level of infinite. Ein sof, no end. V'hu al derech moshul l'maylo. This is by way of example. When we talk about above, hamshochas oir hakeser shemeir ba'atzilus. That is similar to bringing down the oir hakeser that lights in Atzilus. So the returning light in Atzilus, you have the light coming milmaylo lemato. You have the hamshocha. That's the way it goes in Oir Yoshor. But when the person has the level of Mesiras Nefesh, believe bull, so that is also in a level of Ein Sof. This was the goal, that the Nesama descended so that it should go up to the higher level. The Netzolim, which means all of Atzilus, even called Netzolim Atzilus, that were separated, they're still part of the Hishtalshelus. And there is a connection between all of the Hishtalshelus, so that even the Seichel that we have over here is still part of Hishtalshelus versus B'chol Ma'idecha, when there's no limit, which is higher than Hishtalshelus. That's what is explained. That even the Netzolim are in Hishtalshelus. It's still Hishtalshelus. Tiklolus HaSeichel HaAnushi nimshach bechokma de'asiya. Generally, the human intellect is going to go to different levels as it goes up all the way to Atzilus. So the human intellect generally comes from the level of Chochma Da'asiyah. And that comes al yidei emtzous hanefesh Da'asiyah. There is the soul of Asiyah. So from Chochma Da'asiyah, through the soul of Asiyah, it comes down to the human intellect, comes down into the humans. How does it come to the Chochma of Asiyah? That comes from Chochma di Yitzira. The Chochma di Yitzira, he mocker le Chochma Da'asiyah. The Chochma in the world of Yitzira is the source for the Chochma Asiyah. Now, it doesn't mean that it's at the same level. Hagam shihi ruchnis yoser, even though it's more spiritual, but it's still a source for the Chochma of Asiyah. The Chochma of Yitzira is the source of Chochma Da'asiyah. The Chochma de Bria, and the Chochma Bria is mocker le Chochma de Yitzira. That's the source for Chochma of Yitzira. And the Chochma de Atzilus is mocker le Chochma de Bria. And Chochma of Atzilus is a source of Chochma de Bria. So basically, at the end of the day, they are part of the evolution, part of the Hishtalshelus. V'im kain haseichel and nushi nimshach al yidei Hishtalshelus mechochma da'atzilus. So therefore, the human intellect comes through Hishtalshelus mechochma da'atzilus. V'ayim hashekosem me'inyin Hishtalshelus zu b'dibra maschil posach Eliyahu b'parshas Vayera. U'mipnei zeh, and because of this, because it's all part of the Hishtalshelus, nemar kulam b'chochma osiso, that all of it is with chochma osiso, weighed with chochma. Shelegabe hamaitzel, it's all like asiya. Shelegabe hamaitzel, relative to the maitzel, Hashem harihu merumim levadei, he is exalted by himself, ve'ene be'erech hachochma bina, and he's not at all compared to the Chochma Bina. But the Atzilus heimorak idos. And Atzilus is only midos. Ad beg b'midoisov, connect to his midos, ma'urago. So Abel HaMaitzil b'chinas Eila v'lo l'midoisov, but the Maitzil, Hashem himself is him, v'lo l'midoisov. So in that saying that Eila v'lo l'midoisov, there's a big difference. There is midoisov, that's Atzilus, and we say Eilov. Eilov means him, meaning Hashem himself. The Iker his havus Abiyah mina Maitzil, and the main creation from Atzilus Bri Yitzira, from the Maitzil, Hurak mebchinas shemesh. It's only from a level of names. A name means it's an in and not an integral part. It's not the real part of the person that is named or by Hashem. It's not Hashem himself, it's just his name. Because there's no comparison between the name and the essence of the person. Says the Yud Moker La'atzilus, that the Yud of the Shem Havaya is the source of Atzilus, and the Hey is in Bria Chulu. The Hoyd is an Ered V'Shamoy. So we know now that all of Hishtalshelus includes Atzilus, includes all of Abiyah, all of Bri Yitzira Asiyah. It's all connected. The Maitzil is on a different plane, on a different level. How do we connect the Maitzil with the Ne'etzolim? Atzilus with the Ein Sof, with the Maitzil? What is that intermediary that brings down the flow from the Meitzil to the Netzolim. That's the light of Keser. This is what the Tikkun Zohar says. Keser Elyon, the supreme Keser, Yushem Ma, that is the name of Ma. The Ihu Oirach Atzilus. The Ihu Shakyu Dilono. That is the road for Atzilus, and that waters the trees. Basically, the Hamshocha comes from Keser to Atzilus and to the watering of Atzilus of Ilona. The Hainu Chayis Oilam HaAtzilus. That is the vitalization, the Chayis of the world of Atzilus. Shehu al Yidei HaKeser. That is through Keser. Ki imcha Mekor Chaim, because with you is the Mekor Chaim, that is the level of Keser. Sha'ala Keser Omru, that with regards to Keser, our sages, the Zohar says, Antu Chad V'loi B'chushban. You are one, but not counted, not one to not an accounting. She'ein Aroich Elof. That there is no comparison to that, to the level even of Keser. V'chochma ma'ayin temotze. And Chochma is found from ayin, which means it's not in a way of ishtalshlus. The loiki say that ishtalshlus hanal, the abya, not in the order of the ishtalshlus that we said before of atzilus bri asiya. V'zeu inyan yerida soira chaliyah. And this is the descent, which is for the purpose of elevation to go up into the level of Keser, which is higher than Ishtalshlus. This is the difference between the angels and the Neshamas. Because Malachim are above, he's going to bring out now the Oir Choizer, the returning light. You need a bang on something in order to get back. That because the Malachim Hein Lamailo, Bein Shum Dover Mastir Lohem, there is nothing obstructing, obscuring them from Vein Bechinas Hahi Shtalshlus, they're in the order of Shtalshlus. Einom Yechoidlim Lahamshich Oir Chodosh, they cannot bring down this new light. Ma'achar She'einom Memehusam, because it's not of their mehus, they're in a lower level. And that's what they're called standing. They don't bring down a higher, a new level. But when we talk about below Bayidin, they have been lowered into a body that blocks the sanctity of the soul, the Shari Dvorim Hamoinim, and other things that prevent the Yid from connection to Hashem, from the Ishtalshlus to come directly. So for the reason of this lock, She'ein maniach lispashet lemato, that doesn't allow it to go below, nase eir chayzer. So then it turns into a returning light. Bilmato lemailo b'nekudas alev. From below to above, the point of the heart, you return to Hashem. V'al yidei zeh, and through that return, mimamakim krasicha havaya, from the depth I call out Havaya, Liyes Krosicho Havaya Be'eser Sfiris Atzilus, to bring in Havaya into the 10 Sfiris of Atzilus, to be Mamshich from Keser. V'hainu Aidei Umko de Libo Shuva Ilo, that is through the depth of the heart, the higher level of Shuva, the Moshchin Le Bechele Yatir, they pull with more force. Sha'al yidei zeh, through that force, oir chodosh al tzion toir, a new light will bring down on Tzion. V'hainu And that is through the level of B'chol Meidecha.